Welcome, everyone. This is Serge from Code Engine Studio. Joining me today is Christophe, our CEO. We decided to have a little internal powwow and internal chat to talk about what makes a good partner when it comes to remote software development teams. So we're calling this 6 green flags for remote software development team. We've been around this industry for quite a while, and we've worked with quite a few projects, both with other teams and with direct customers. We won't say how many years, but we both have a little bit of gray in our beards. So we'll let you all figure that out as you guess. So why don't we just jump right in, right, Christophe?
Sounds good. Let's get going.
All right. So green flag number 1 for a quality remote software development partner is they communicate well. That sounds kind of obvious, but what does that mean?
It seems like it's obvious, but oftentimes the fundamentals is where people start to fall through the cracks. When we first founded the company, I did a bunch of business analysis and kind of customer research to see where did people fall through the cracks. And this is really it. It sounded like people said, yeah, we do it. They might have somebody near shore. They might have a person who is an account manager said, yeah, we deliver. But almost always the pain point came to saying, suddenly when the things start getting rough, people stop communicating. And then in the 11th hour, they'd be like, oh, by the way, we need more time where the budget's going to go up. And so it was the idea of not just communicating when it was convenient, but communicating throughout the entire journey. And that is both from their side as the client, but also from the developer side. It just started to really fall apart. So I think this is one of those ones where you think it's just kind of a no-brainer. And at the beginning, a lot of people look like they're kind of got that green flag, but the question is how do they deal with it when stress hits and when they have to truly be honest? That's where things start to really fall apart.
Yeah, I throw in the fact that sometimes it's helpful to have various team roles being capable of communication. And that comes down to both language and cultural understanding. But I think having technical people being able to communicate with technical people and get into high level geek talk, but also having people who can translate tech to non-tech and being able to translate both the business needs and that also being able to help understand why things are not happening from a business perspective. So being able to get through the processes. All right. That leads me to the second green flag that we've identified. And as much as everybody talks about systems, we believe that a good green flag for a software development partner is a partner that offers clarity and transparency in systems and processes. Now, that one is a little bit harder than communication. And it doesn't just happen with installing a piece of software or just having a tool, right?
Yeah. Tools are part of it, but if all it took was a little bit of Jira or magic sauce, then anyone could do that. In a way, it makes me think of like agile, where theoretically it sounds like it's really simple to do, and the practices are really simple, but to do them well is really complicated. And so using that mix of tools, sometimes people think that if you just have a tool, it'll make up for communication. Or if you think you have communication, it'll make up for the fact you don't have the right tools. It's this beautiful balance of having both. That's the tricky part of knowing, and it's not one size fits all. It's being able to find that balance of what works for the right team here versus that team there, between communication, the right tools, the right systems, the right engagement models. And it's finding that balance between it. But here's what it really comes down to, I feel like, is those who are maybe in the red types of vendors is going to be those who they say the right things. They've read the right books. It really doesn't take a long to have read a few books on agile and scrum practices to make it sound right. But it's the difference between sounding right and actually having the experience, having the years, like you said, we got a little bit of gray in our beards here, where we understand what does it really take to not only communicate, but to set up the systems and practices and process to make it all work together. And so it's I guess the difference between what you say and what you do. And so
Yeah. I heard an illustration a few months ago when somebody was talking about agile, because everybody claims to be agile in Scrum. In fact, every website of a software development company say we use agile practices. And the person I was talking to told me, well, you know what they ask you to do when you get a job at a Michelin restaurant? It's to fry an egg. But the thing is, it sounds really simple. And every one of us has fried an egg in the morning, or most of us. I'm pretty sure even your son has done it by now. But to do it perfectly and to do it right and to actually do the egg to the consistency that the customer wants it, right? I do not want running whites on my egg, but I also don't want a hard yolk. So what I think about is the two extremes is people who have no systems or are very rigid in their systems run into trouble sometimes. And I do think it's powerful when you can say, you know what? Kanban may make more sense for your project, right? We're trying to help you resolve a backlog, or maybe we do a modified agile, or maybe there's certain things, but it's also having that system in place will help when things go wrong. We have been around enough projects to know that there will be a rough moment where there'll be not enough information, or there'll be a deadline change, or there'll be a scope change, or the investor will come and say, well, no, I'm not going to give you money until you build this feature, or whatever needs to happen. And if you don't have the system in place and you have to panic at the last moment and say, wait, what do we need to do to get it done? It will create tension, and it will often lead to frustration. But if you have a system in place, if you are invested in it together, if you work on it together, then I think you're more likely to survive. You know, it's about backbone of the system, I think, is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
All right. So going along with that, to help partners, to help people you're working with, the number 3 green flag we think about is a good partner asks really good questions to better understand the business needs and the business goals of a project. So it is not just about setting up the right tech stack, which is part of the factor, but it's also understanding why certain decisions are being made. What kind of things have you seen, Christophe, that will make a difference with these business questions?
Yeah, I think this is one where you can really start to see people's mindsets and their business acumen. Where the first two, people can kind of bluff it. They can bluff how well they communicate for a little bit. They can bluff about what the tool set is that they're going to use. But you really can't bluff for very long, whether you have business insights and understanding at a deeper level, and if you have the right mindset to dig deep into questions that are needing to be prodded at to understand things, because you realize there's the people who like what they'll say is yeah, their default answer is when someone says something like, oh yeah, I know, or they'll say they won't delve deeper into it, and when they don't know, they won't say they don't know. That's the thing, is there's a maturity that comes with this experience of saying, when you don't know, let's dig into it. I don't know. You're the business expert. Tell me, right? But people, where you start to really see this, is people who just suddenly make this facade of saying they know everything. They know everything about your business. They know how they can completely do everything for you. And it sounds good at first when you want someone to come and be your savior to fix you, your application or what it is. But that's kind of a sign that you should be worried about when someone pretends to believe they know everything about you and what's going to solve you all your woes. So I think a green light is someone who's really willing to dig deep, who asks questions that really makes you wonder. Actually, I haven't even thought about that. I didn't even know what I didn't know. Because yes, our clients often are the experts in their area, whatever that business might be. But being able to marry that between their business idea and the technology, they usually aren't the expert in those things. And so us coming in there, or anybody who's the right type of software partner, usually comes in and says, have you thought about all these different things? And they should be able to hopefully bring something to the table that you haven't thought about. And if they can't, they might not quite be the right partner. And those who really make you think usually is a good indication that they've got the right mindset to be the right partner.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the old movie Die Hard, when the 2 FBI agents show up and immediately say, oh, this is the B7 scenario. I wonder sometimes if certain companies come in and say, oh, they fit in exactly this box. Look, there's always similarities between businesses we talk to. We've dealt with clients in real estate, probably half a dozen of those. Yeah, there's some similarities, but guess what? Their idea is a little bit different. And I think sometimes it's fun to see their reaction and actually see how the business even may pivot. from the idea of who they may serve. And when you start thinking about their business needs, how will the tool help their business grow? They may have an understanding of today, but as we start building this and think about foundation being more robust so it can expand in other directions in the future, there's certain technological investments, technological choices are going to make a difference, right? If you're building a public website, are people going to eventually want to do a login? Who's the audience you're considering? Is a very particular niche audience? Do you want to make sure you do a lot of public audience stuff? And understanding where the business is, where it could go, and what are the risks along the way, as well as the opportunities. These are good business questions we try to ask along the way. And so do other partners that have green flags, obviously. So, all right, well, part of asking questions is good, but it's also important to seek feedback. I think a very, very solid green flag is a remote software development partner that continually seeks out stakeholder feedback.
Yeah, for sure. I think it kind of relates a little bit back to the first green flag, which is communication. Those who have been around the block realize there's often a lot more stakeholders than might always originally be proposed. There's the ones who are the stakeholders that are in the business, but then there's a lot of stakeholders that ultimately that they're responsible to, whether that's up or ultimately their customers. And so those who have a little less experience just say, oh, I'll just listen to you. You said jump, I'm going to jump. And they're not even going to ask how high or for how long or why am I jumping. And then there's going to be the ones who are a little bit smarter and they'll be like, why are you asking me to jump? And how long and how high? But then there's the ones who are going to ask, actually, are you sure if I jump this way, it's going to deliver on what your end client's needs are? And so how do we test and how do we make sure that when I move 3 feet to the right, that suddenly that delivers the perfect solution for them? And so that's what we like to do. Like, I think a good partner is someone who has the bigger picture in play here. It's not just what do you want? Yes, we want to deliver what you want, but we want to make sure you haven't missed out on the bigger picture. I mean, we've worked on clients like this where we did a whole MVP and we delivered a huge, beautiful product and they were super happy with it. And then it turned out when they delivered it to their end customers, they missed the mark and it cost them dearly. And if they would have just spent a little bit more time being willing to listen to us and say, hey, maybe we really need to stop. And we pushed back on this, but they were so convinced of their own idea. They drank their own Kool-Aid. And while we wanted to try to help them to step back and reconsider, they felt as though they were the experts. And as much as we tried to push back on these things, at the end of the day, they were the clients and they demanded those directions, and unwilling to listen to certain piece of advice, we ultimately had to move forward with them. And we tried our best, but it didn't come without a pain and a cost that we feel like, I feel certainly we could have averted if they would have been a little bit more humble. And so there's definitely another piece into that, is being able to be both humble to listen, but making sure you have a partner who's willing to speak up.
Yeah, I think it's important for a technology partner to continuously seek out feedback. So both, hey, we're planning out a sprint, we're planning out a milestone. We think these are the priorities, but hey, let's make sure we understand we don't know what's going on with your investors. We don't know what's going on with your leadership. Oh, you have a new VP. They have a different focus. They want to do something different this quarter. Well, they really don't want that feature. Well, why are we spending time building this feature? Wait, your competition just gained 10% market share. We had a client out of Ohio that came to us in the middle of the project, said, by the way, we found our competitors launched a feature we're going to put in phase 3 of a project. To be competitive, we need to launch it now. Okay, that's good. You got feedback. We got feedback. We got feedback in the process, and you got to adjust. But it also comes down to actively getting our clients to understand the value of user testing, and getting feedback from different types of users. I have seen this where executives, particularly with a lot of experience, assume they know the customer, and they assume that the customer base has not changed in 20 years. And all of a sudden, the customer goes, well, why would I install an app on my phone when I can do this in my browser or can do this in another app? We had a customer who said, well, no, Starbucks will do what we tell them to do. No, Starbucks is not going to jump for you. They're going to, do what they do. But I think ultimately in the day, it's can we help through our systems, through our communication, through our understanding of the business? These are all things that are coming together. Help our business partner to get continual feedback so the product at the end is better, so that the product at the end is successful long term. We talk about value proposition. We'll talk a little more about success proposition. All right. So these are all good soft skills. Number 5 is the team has solid hard skills. I think that matters.
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, if the team can't deliver, the team can't deliver. It doesn't matter how good they are. It doesn't matter how nice they are. We all love to work with people that we like, the ones that you'd like to go out and have a beer with later on, or just go out for a coffee. And that's definitely an important thing. And I think where most outsourcing teams fail. But this is one as well. Software is a very quick moving beast altogether. And so what worked yesterday is a bit of a good indicator of what will happen tomorrow with the team, but it's also a bit of it's not the perfect option to understand how that team's going to deliver. So the question is, how have they done, and how are they making sure to stay on top of the ball? So this is one of those things where I look at not only what are they doing, I look at how are they contributing in larger ways, like in the open source community. Can I check out their code quality? Are they delivering at a place where it's not only, is it passing my smell test? Is it actually passing the open source community smell test? Because that's a group of people who are extremely critical. The quality
Somewhat judgmental, yeah.
somewhat. But I mean, it has to pass a rigor that because now it's completely open. The quality has to be impeccable because the risks are too great. Now it's completely open. Anyone can find those loopholes. So the rigor is extremely high. So those are places where I love to be able to say, okay, how is this team doing against a standard that is unquestionable almost, or standards such as certifications that are from a real body I trust. In other words, hey, do I trust a large entity such as like Google or AWS for infrastructure related certifications, or other ones that might be related to areas such as not only about development, but into things like Scrum Master, product owners, all these different hard skills that any team might be needing to work on a product. So it's how are they staying up to date? Because everything is evolving. So yes, I'll look at what does the portfolio look like, what repositories are they committing to, as well as how are they making sure they're staying sharp.
Yeah, I think there's a balance. Obviously, community involvement. We know Drupal community is a big one. Liferay community is a big one. We've been involved in both of those, and you can see the companies that contribute a lot of code, and their code is being used by other people. So that's always a good indicator. I would also say I love seeing partners that upfront talk about their team development and talk about things like, hey, we're not going to just put a bunch of seniors on your team or a bunch of juniors on your team. We're going to share the level of expertise. So as your project goes on, that specific technical knowledge you need will permeate throughout the project. So yes, you need to have certifications, but you also want to continue developing the quality of your team throughout the process. And is your team getting training? Is your team required to do certain levels of training? When it comes to a lot of companies, they may have 2 or 3 guys that have a lot of, when it comes to certain companies, they may have 1 or 2 guys who have a lot of certifications, but is that spread out? Are there investments from the company side into continual development of their team members? Look, it helps their retention, hopefully. It helps them be better as a company, helps their culture, but it also makes them better partners for somebody who has a product or a service they need help with technologically. Okay, so let's bring it all together. We have communicate well, offer clarity, transparency in systems and processes, ask good questions to better understand your business needs, value and seek continual stakeholder feedback, and having a team with solid hard skills. All that put together, in my mind, means that a team, a solid partner like this, can deliver on success propositions. And we all talk about value, and value is a great thing. But you know what? If I buy something cheap and it breaks 6 months down the road, it may have been great value at the moment of purchase, but it's not necessarily long-term value. So how do we look at a success proposition delivery?
That's a big question. The way I view success is this balance between getting what you want, but it's not only getting what you wanted, but it's getting it the way you wanted it. It's kind of that combination between all those soft skill activities that you kind of had through 1 through 4, and then the fifth one with the hard skills. When you smash kind of all those different pieces together, what you get is this beautiful balance between getting a quality product, but also getting the whole experience that you're looking for. I kind of liken it to fine dining type of experience. When you go there, you're not only going because you wanted a great meal, you're going there because you wanted the entirety of that experience. You wanted to have great waiting staff. You wanted the maitre d' to greet you. You wanted the valet parking, all those types of experiences, and it's the whole entirety of that delivers on what you're expecting. And then when it all comes together, it's kind of a beautiful total experience. And so to me, that's what success looks like. Even when we were talking about a product, it's about something that is going to endure. It's going to be something that you can take away. But as you work through it from beginning to the end, not to say there won't be hard times, but felt like it's all worth it. It felt like it was enjoyable. It felt like in the end, you came out with something that you are proud of as a team and as a partner, that you are happy to continue working with them. If I had to walk away from this experience, would I want this team back? Would I want to make sure that they're the people that deliver on my next product, my next project, whatever that might be? Those are those things that kind of come together. It's the thing, like if I had to, it's kind of like one of those interview questions. If you had to work with this guy again, would you work with them again? It's kind of that's the question. Would you work with this team again? So to me, that's what success looks like. Success says, I got what I wanted, and I got it how I wanted it with the people I wanted it with.
Yeah, I'll spin it a little bit differently. It doesn't mean that every single step is going to be smooth sailing. There's going to be bumps in the road, but you know what? The best relationships are the ones that endure through the tough times, the bumps, the challenges, pivots. At the end of the day, I get more excited when a customer comes back to me and says, our users love the product and we got this great feedback and we did this opportunity. One of my favorite stories, we were just talking about this before we started recording, is we had a project with the University of Calgary, and they did a particular department of the University of Calgary did a project that we built, and it was a pilot and it was quite successful. Then it grew to 2 departments. Eventually the university went, this is really good. We're going to bring it in-house and give every department this project, and we're going to build a tool for it in-house. But it's exciting that we saw the success and we saw the growth and we saw that there was potential of the business goals and end goals even went beyond where the very initial part of the project was. And I think there's other examples I can think of specifically, but it's exciting for me when I see, wow, this is better than I thought it would be, or this is really cool, and now we can do more with it. When we look at the fact that, we even have clients that we worked with that the technology has changed, and what we built 8-10 years ago is no longer serving that need. But guess what? There's at least one client I'm hoping to have on our webcast in the near future. He's still working with us because he understands that we delivered the right success for the right product to allow his business to make it through the season that it needed to make it through. And I think that success largely comes from how their product is embraced, but also from the relationship. And that continual relationship, continual partnership is a successful one, not because everybody's always happy all the time and singing Kumbaya, but because we know how to solve problems. So there you go. We do not have a singing class at Code Engine Studio for Kumbaya singing lessons yet. We'll have to talk to our training department about that. Well, thank you very much, Christophe, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll have another episode coming soon. We're hoping to have more episodes with our customers and other folks in the industry who are solving technological problems and delivering on something cool for their customers. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening.